Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we will be leaving Noosa and heading to Brisbane. So we caught the Greyhound bus early in the morning and it dropped us off at the Roma Street station in Brisbane. And I decided to walk from the station to my hostel, which was about a 10 to 15 minute walk. The bus ride wasn't too bad. There were a lot more people on this bus ride to Brisbane than there was on the bus ride to Noosa. And it was a little bit hectic trying to find the right bus. There were about 4 or 5 different buses going in all different directions. So if you are there, just be sure to get there early at the Noosa Junction bus stop and make sure you get on the right bus. So this is the hostel I booked. It's called Brisbane Quarters. It was a 4-bed mixed room. And it was okay. It was a little bit small. Everything felt very compact. Like the kitchen was a little bit small, but it did have a pool and the rooms were a little bit smaller. And I wind up not really liking it that much because of the people in my room. They were very sick, so they kept coughing all night and it felt very stuffy and hot because the rooms were so small. But you know, sometimes it's a hit or miss with a hostel. You just don't know how the rooms will be and who you'll be staying with. So after I dropped my bags off, I decided to walk around the city a little bit. It's actually very pretty. The city almost reminded me of like a Chicago or a New York because there's a lot of tall skyscrapers and a lot of people walking around on the streets. I was able to spot some other backpackers and I wind up stumbling upon this area called South Bank, and they had a little pool. And then they also had a shopping pedestrian area where you could get something to eat. So I was getting a little bit hungry and I saw a Tex-Mex restaurant and decided to give that a try. I did expect the Tex-Mex all the way in Australia to be quite different from the Tex-Mex that I'm used to in Houston. I'd say the chips and salsa were okay. The chips were a little bit hard for my taste. So I wind up ordering the 3 tacos and I got a side of street corn. They were okay, but the flavors again were a little bit different from the Tex-Mex flavors I'm used to in Texas, but it's definitely worth a try. It's very interesting to see what the Australian take is on Tex-Mex. So after I finished my meal, I decided to head back towards the hostel and cross the river, and it was pretty cool just to see the area where the Olympics will be coming in 2032. And there are also these cat ferries that are apparently very cheap. I wasn't able to take one, but I think they're about 60 to 65 cents or something to be able to cross the river. So that's like a really cool way to see the city as well. So for my second day in Brisbane, I decided to go to the Australia Zoo. And I was debating on whether or not to take a tour that picked you up from Brisbane, brought you to the zoo, and then picked you up and brought you back to Brisbane, or just taking the train myself. The zoo is about an hour drive from Brisbane, but I decided to go with the guided tour, and I think I definitely would recommend this option because the guide provided a lot of information during our drive. He pointed out different things along the route and the history of Brisbane, and pointed out to us some different landmarks like this rock, which is supposed to look like a gorilla a little bit, and there's like a whole indigenous backstory behind it, and I thought that was really cool to learn, and I would have never learned about that if I had taken the train to the zoo by myself. We were also able to stop and take a look around the animal hospital before we were dropped off at the front of the zoo entrance, and it was really cool to see. So the zoo is so big that it takes about 1.5 days to be able to see every single thing in the zoo. So the guide also provided us the best route to walk through the zoo to see as much as possible in the time we had. So you kind of just have to see as much as you can and just plan out which animals you want to see the most. So our tour guide did give us a tip to check out the kangaroos and wallabies first if we wanted to feed them. So right when the zoo opened, he instructed us to go all the way back to the gift shop to buy the raw food. I think it was about $3, and then you head over to the kangaroo enclosure area and you're able to basically get a kangaroo to yourself and interact with them with less crowd. Because the zoo had just opened, not a lot of people had made it all the way to that area yet, and the animals were ready for their breakfast snacks. So after I finished up with the kangaroos and wallabies, I decided to walk throughout the rest of the zoo. One of my favorite things that I saw in the zoo was Bindi's treehouse, because I remember seeing her TV show and she was in the treehouse with the lemurs. I remember seeing that a long time ago when she was little, and I couldn't get over how big the zoo was. There's a shuttle that takes you throughout the zoo. There's like 5 different stops that you can stop along the shuttle, and it's definitely recommended that you take the shuttle to eliminate some of your time walking, because the zoo is so big you'll spend a lot of time walking throughout the zoo. And our tour guide told us that there are several hundred acres in addition to the zoo that the public does not have access to, where the animals get rotated out into larger fields so they have more time to roam free. So it seems like the animals get a lot of care and attention at the zoo, which I really felt and appreciated. It was about lunchtime and I decided to stop at the Crikey Cafe to see what they had before the crocodile show. And everything is very nicely set up in the zoo. It looks very clean and brand new almost. The cafeteria was set up cafeteria style, so you would just grab you a tray and then you can pick up whatever food items you want. They had burgers, sandwiches, salads, wrap, meat pies, pizzas, and drinks. Basically anything you wanted, they had it. And then after you picked what you wanted, you were able to check out and sit wherever you like. They had plenty of seating and areas where you could charge your phone, which is really helpful since you probably used up your battery all day taking photos. So I had the meat pie and french fries. It was okay. It's basically what you would expect to get at a cafeteria at a zoo, but you do have an amazing view while you eat over the crocodile exhibit, which I thought was really cool. The cafe is right next door to the Crocoseum where the crocodile show takes place, and I recommend you guys to sit on the right side of the stadium because you will be shaded from the sun. If you sit on the other side, the sun will be directly in your face. So the show is very entertaining. They brought out several different species, including birds, snakes. I definitely recommend catching this show if you don't get to see any other show. The show was very cool, and I believe our crocodile's name was Charlie. Overall, I really enjoyed the zoo. It's pretty much the biggest zoo that I have ever been to. I would say it's definitely worth a visit to come to the zoo if you're in Brisbane. It's one of those once in a lifetime places where you should stop and visit and experience. I certainly enjoyed my day at the zoo, and maybe hopefully one day we'll be able to come back.
Good boy.
And stay tuned for my next video where I continue my solo trip in Australia and I head to Sydney.